You know, when you first sent me all those articles about what's going on in Syria, I got to be honest. My first thought was, okay, but what does this really have to do with unsolved skies?
Right.
But the more we dig into this whole thing, the more I'm starting to see some pretty interesting connections. Like,
Definitely.
there's this one thing in particular that really caught my eye. Well, for the first time since 1974, Israel now has complete control over Mount Hermon.
Hmm.
And, if you know anything about the Book of Enoch, Mount Hermon isn't just some random mountain.
Right.
This is like the place where those mysterious watchers,
Mm.
the fallen angels, are said to have come down to Earth.
Yeah.
It's almost like something straight out of one of our favorite episodes.
Really.
So maybe you can help us break down what's going on over there.
Sure. So basically, the Syrian conflict's been going on for years now, but things have really escalated lately.
Oh, yeah.
The rebels actually managed to overthrow the government, which had a pretty terrible track record when it came to human rights.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
But this has basically thrown the whole region into chaos. You've got countries like Turkey and Israel kind of scrambling to, see what they can get out of the situation.
Ah, I see.
And of course, Mount Hermon, with its strategic location, well, it's always been a bit of a hot spot.
Makes sense. I mean, you're talking about a place that's got a commanding view of everything around it.
Exactly.
Plus, I bet there's a ton of valuable resources up there.
Absolutely. Even water.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's a pretty popular ski resort, too.
Huh. So there's even an economic side to this whole thing.
Definitely the economic and symbolic implications of controlling Mount Hermon are huge.
Okay, so at first glance, it all seems like a pretty straightforward geopolitical move.
Yeah, you could say that.
But you got to admit the timing feels a little, well, uncanny, doesn't it?
Uncanny how?
I mean, right in the middle of all this chaos, Israel suddenly takes control of this place that's like soaked in ancient mystery and lore. It's kind of like, remember that episode where they were debating whether aliens built the pyramids?
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember watching that and thinking like, come on, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah.
But now with this whole Mount Hermon thing, it's, yeah, I don't know, it makes you wonder if there's something more to the story.
I could see that.
Like, what if there really is something hidden up there?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Israel's got a long history of protecting ancient knowledge and artifacts.
Oh, for sure.
So it's possible they're just interested in Mount Hermon because they want to make sure whatever's up there, stays safe.
That's true. I mean, it would be like finding some kind of lost library or something.
Exactly. Something with immense historical or religious significance.
Yeah. And who knows what kind of secrets could be hidden in a place like that.
That's the exciting part, isn't it?
It really is. But, we've talked a lot about Israel's perspective on this whole thing.
Right.
But what about Mount Hermon itself? Like, what's the deal with this place?
Well, Mount Hermon's not just some random mountain,
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
This is a place that's been considered sacred for centuries.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's mentioned in the Bible, the Book of Enoch. Even ancient Canaanite texts talk about it.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's been a focal point for spiritual beliefs and mystical traditions for a really long time.
So we're talking about a place with layers upon layers of history mythology, and now a major geopolitical power suddenly in control.
That's one way to put it.
And let's not forget the whole unsolved skies connection, the fallen angels, the watchers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost too perfect, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Like, what if this whole situation is a catalyst for something bigger?
I like where you're going with this.
Well, think of what I'm thinking.
Like maybe Israel's presence on Mount Hermon, whether they intend to or not, ends up disturbing something that's been dormant for centuries.
Ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's certainly a possibility.
Like maybe their presence triggers some kind of ancient energy or awakens something, otherworldly.
Precisely. Remember, the Book of Enoch talks about Mount Hermon as a place where the veil between realms was thin.
Yeah.
So it's not a stretch to imagine that something could have been left behind, something with the potential to be reactivated.
Okay, now I'm officially getting chills.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild thought, isn't it?
It really is. We're talking about a location that's been a focal point for spiritual beliefs and mystical traditions for like millennia.
For millennia.
And now in the middle of all this geopolitical turmoil, it's suddenly back in the spotlight.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's like the mountain itself is calling out to us.
And that brings us back to the question of Israel's true intentions.
Right, like are they just securing a strategic asset or are they looking for something more?
Something hidden, something powerful, maybe even something connected to those ancient stories of the Watchers.
It's like that episode of Unsolved Skies where they were talking about the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, yeah.
They were going back and forth about whether it could be hidden in some underground chamber just waiting to be rediscovered. And now, with Israel controlling Mount Hermon, well, it makes you wonder.
It certainly does.
I mean, we're talking about a convergence of history, mythology, and current events that's almost impossible to ignore.
You're absolutely right.
And while I know it's tempting to jump to conclusions, we got to approach this with, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Definitely.
But at the same time, we can't just dismiss the possibility that something extraordinary is happening.
Of course not.
Something connected to those unsolved skies we love to think about.
Exactly.
Something that could change our understanding of history, the universe, maybe even ourselves.
It's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It really is. So, where do we go from here?
Well, that's where you, our listener, come in.
What, you putting this on us?
Yeah, I mean, not just you. I'm talking to all our listeners. Everyone who's ever looked up at the night sky and wondered, what's out there?
Okay, I can see it.
Everyone who's ever felt that tingle of excitement when they encounter something unknown. This is a collective effort.
Okay, I like that it's like a global unsolved skies team, all working together to figure this thing out.
Exactly.
But how do we even begin? Like, what should we be looking for?
Pay attention to the news, the whispers, the seemingly unrelated events that might actually be pieces of a much larger puzzle.
Okay, I can do that.
Do your own research, connect your own dots, and most importantly, keep an open mind.
Right, because the truth, whatever it is out there.
Absolutely.
And it might be a lot closer and a lot stranger than we ever imagined.
You never know.
Until next time, keep looking up and maybe keep an eye on Mount Hermon too.
Good advice. It's like, what if all these stories, these myths, these legends,
Yeah.
what if they're not just stories?
You're saying, like, what if they're echoes of something real?
Exactly. Something we're only just now starting to understand.
Okay, hold on. I need a minute to process all this. This is getting pretty mind-blowing, even for a seasoned Unsolved Skies fan like me.
Uh-huh.
So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this whole investigation?
Well, that's where you, our listener, come in.
Wait, you're putting this on us.
Well, honestly, this is bigger than any one podcast, any one theory, any one expert.
I mean, I appreciate the vote of confidence, but...
No, not just you. I'm talking to all of our listeners, everyone who's ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what's out there. Everyone who's ever felt that tingle of excitement when confronted with the unknown.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
This is a collective effort.
Okay, I like that it's like a global Unsolved Skies team all working together to unravel this mystery.
Exactly.
But how do we even begin? What should we be looking for?
Pay attention to the news, the whispers, the seemingly unrelated events that might just be pieces of a much larger puzzle. Do your own research, connect your own dots, and most importantly, keep an open mind.
Right, because the truth, whatever it may be, is out there.
Absolutely.
And it might be a lot closer and a lot stranger than we ever imagined.
Never know.
Until next time, keep looking up. And maybe keep an eye on Mount Hermon, too.
Good advice. Think about it. We've got this place, Mount Hermon, steeped in ancient mysteries, tied to, the whole Unsolved Skies narrative.
Right.
And now it's under the control of a nation that's known for its intelligence operations and its respect for historical artifacts.
Yeah, it's like all the pieces are falling into place. But I guess the big question is what happens next?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What will Israel do now that they have control over Mount Hermon?
Yeah, like, will they even acknowledge that there might be something extraordinary up there? Or will they just brush it off as folklore?
It's hard to say. Governments tend to be pretty secretive about these kinds of things.
Yeah, true. But part of me hopes they bring in the Unsolved Skies guys to investigate. That would be amazing.
I know, right? Can you imagine those two poking around some ancient ruins arguing about whether they found alien tech or just a really old toaster?
Oh, man, that would be classic.
But realistically speaking, we probably won't get any official confirmation about what they're doing up there.
Here, you're probably right.
But who knows? Maybe some information will leak out. Maybe we'll see some unusual activity in the area.
Or maybe they'll just build another ski lift.
Haha. That's always a possibility. But I think regardless of what happens on the ground, this whole situation has already stirred up something.
What do you mean?
It's like it's reignited our fascination with the unexplained, with the possibility that there's more to our world than we realize.
You're right. And that's what I love about Unsolved Skies. It encourages us to question, to explore, to keep an open mind to all the possibilities.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe this whole Mount Hermon thing will lead to some real answers, some tangible evidence of something truly extraordinary.
Or maybe it'll just deepen the mystery, add another layer to the enigma of Mount Hermon.
Yeah, that's true too.
But either way, it's a reminder that we live in a world full of wonder. A world where the line between reality and the unexplained can get pretty blurry.
Yeah, and a world where there's always more to discover.
Exactly. So to all our listeners out there, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the mysteries of our unsolved skies. You never know what you might find.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, folks.